recording right now. Good evening, this is Rob Bell, and you're watching Getting the Record Straight. This is the Black Rock and Soul edition. Welcome. When you're watching this, please subscribe, share, like, do all that good stuff. And most importantly, stay safe. We're still dealing with that virus, and in fact, I have to deal with it every day, actually working. So it's more than a notion. Be careful out there. My guest this evening is the great jazz guitarist, Monnette Sudler. You should be able to see her on the screen. And Monnette is a great jazz guitarist, composer, vocalist, recording artist, and educator. And she's going to be with us for about the next half hour. Good evening, Monnette. Welcome.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm going to try something I haven't done before. I am going to try to surprise you because I just came across something like literally 15, 20 minutes ago. I was just doing some final research on you. So let me see if I can do this. Hold on for a second. Let me see if this will work. Okay. Can you hear this?
Yes.
Oh, we're killing it.
Sounds of liberation.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now I got to get this back.
That was back in the day.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's the remake. They did a reissue.
Wait a minute. Hold on for a second. I'm sorry. Let me see. What have I done here?
Yeah, the Sounds of Liberation. That was with Khan Jamal, Billy Mills, and Omar.
Yeah. So
Right.
hold on for a second.
Okay. I'm sorry. I just started
No,
talking.
I'm trying to get this. Screen back so everybody can see us. And of course, I'm not sure how to do that. Gosh. I don't know why they don't do these things more easily. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's probably a menu that'll come up either above or below.
Yeah, oh, here we go. Stop share. All right.
There we go.
Forgive me,
Okay.
fans out there. Yeah, so I thought I'd put that out there for a second and, you know, and let that be kind of our genesis, if you will, of this interview. Because that happened early on in your career. So why don't you talk about that and talk about kind of how you got started? Because I had no idea. The group was called the Sounds of Liberation, right?
Correct.
Out of Germantown or Mount Airy up that way. And,
yes.
So how did that get started? And was that your first foray into, you know, jazz and professional playing?
Yes, it was actually.
Really? So how did you get started?
And so I was working at the Y.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be a YWCA on Chestnut Street, and I was working there, and I was teaching guitar and art. And there was a guy that was also working there, and you know, we were chatting, and he said, my friend plays vibraphones and you should meet him. And so, you know, he gave me his number, and I called, and it was Khan Jamal. So I called him, and you know, I told him, I said, I play guitar, you know, and wanted to jam a little bit. So he said, well, I'll come over now. And I said, right now? So you gonna bring your vibes? He said, yeah, bring my vibes. I'm like, okay. So he came right over, and he brought his friend Omar Hill with his congas, and we jammed in my living room all afternoon, and we pretty much did that for like a month, just jammed, you know, either in my living room or mostly in his garage. And so we added a bass player and a drummer, and eventually the permanent bass player was Billy Mills and Dwight James. They were actually on the recordings. And we all lived in really close proximity of each other, like on Chew Avenue. Like I lived on Chew Avenue. Omar lived like at the next corner on Chew Avenue. Billy lived on Vernon Road, but like right off of Chew Avenue. And then Khan lived on Ulster Street, right off of Chew Avenue, pretty much. And then later on, Byard joined the group, and he lived on Brenton Street, like right off of Chew Avenue. So yeah, Chew Avenue was the straight line for the whole band. Actually,
it's all a neighborhood type thing, right?
Yes.
And so this is back early 70s, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And you know, let me share a brief story, because in '73, I'm pledging Omega Psi Phi fraternity. And I had to do a community project, our line. And so my dean, the guy who was in charge of us, was a brother named Craig Taylor. He's actually a doctor, a medical doctor now. And he was in medical school now. But Craig's also a musician, and he plays saxophone. So at the time, in '73, I grew up in West Philly, 1300 block of Robinson, around 61st and Master. And the next block up is a young guy who was playing clubs named Grover Washington. And he had just moved there with his wife. I think they had one of their children, I don't know how many they had, but I think they had a child then. But he used to go to dinner clubs in the evening. I would see him walking down the street with his tuxedo on. And he may have just cut his first album, but a lot of the guys from the neighborhood would go over and jam there on the weekends and what have you at his house, right? 1400 block of Robinson. Long short, I got Grover to do this fundraiser, this free well, it wasn't free, you had to pay like $5 at the empty foxhole at University of Penn, in the basement there.
Yeah, that was the spot.
And Khan Jamal and Byard Lancaster opened, and Craig, my buddy, played with it, sat in with them, and Grover, you know, closed the show, tore it up. It was just awesome. But yeah, that's my little story with some of those folks, you know. But
nice.
Yeah, it was a good time. Great time. I mean, people were playing music right in the neighborhood, you know, everybody was jamming, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I was reading a little bit. It was something I read was saying your first teacher shared some influences, folk music with you, stuff from Paul Simon and Richie Havens and Joni Mitchell. Can you elaborate on that at all, or do you have some folk background?
You know, yeah, my aunt, she used to work at what was called the Wharton Center, which was right off of Columbia Avenue,
Avenue,
22nd
right.
and Columbia,
Mm-hmm.
which is now Cecil B. Moore Avenue.
Sure.
So that was, you know, the community center there.
Mm-hmm.
And so the teacher, she taught, that was her background, was folk music. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what she introduced me to.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I love like Richie Havens, and I love Paul Simon too. Simon Garfunkel. Paul Simon's writing is just, you know, him and Richie Havens. I love their writing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and Joni Mitchell as well. So, but then I gravitated out of that because I really wanted to study jazz, and so I got another teacher who was more, you know, jazz oriented. And then I went to school at Berkeley, and then after that I met Khan right after that. So
Yeah, really.
yeah, but I still enjoy folk music, and I still like use that
Mm-hmm.
in my repertoire and in my writing sometimes.
Well, what do you mean when you say you use it? I mean, you play it, you integrate it into the.
Yeah, I integrated it into my music, and sometimes, you know, when I'm doing my songwriting, I do the singer-songwriter thing. Sometimes it has those inflections of a good folk song.
Yeah, I wish I knew, was a musician and could really delve into that more in terms of being able to explain the differences. I mean, I can sense it and know it when I hear it, but it's really hard to do, for a layperson, I think, to describe how you differentiate between the different genres and types of music.
Right. I guess folk music is harmonically just more is a lot simpler. Um, uses a lot of major chords, like triads and things. And then with jazz, you kind of add on the major sevenths and the ninths and the 13th and, you know, all the extra stuff, extensions that you can use with like the dominant seven chords and things. So that automatically changes the characteristic of the song and the harmony.
Well, I know what I'm going to have to study on when I get after this is over, so I can figure out what all those terms mean exactly. But the good thing is that with the advent of internet, you can actually see videos that explain very simply, and kind of from an elementary standpoint, some of those concepts, because I'm very interested in them, but I didn't really get them when I was, butchering the violin in the third and fourth grade. I just didn't get it. But I've become, as a real fan, and I've actually written about music from a fan's perspective.
Okay.
But it's these more technical things that I'm trying to get to understand more. But in terms of your career, I remember seeing you. I'm pretty sure I had been reading about you. This must have been the late 70s. It was on top of one of those big buildings down like at 15th and Market. And you were there, and I don't know if you were playing with Grover or you were opening for him. It wasn't a big set, as I recall. And I think that was the first time I saw you. Then I hadn't seen you for a while. And I guess about 20 years ago or something, 15 years ago, I picked up a CD and you were singing, and I told you that before we started. You were doing this version of "Born Again" by what's his name, Billy Preston.
Yeah.
I had never heard you sing before. You have a beautiful voice. I mean,
Thank you.
in addition to being, a great guitarist, but I hadn't heard you sing before, and that was just an awesome rendition. Are you doing more singing, or how much vocalizing, if you will, is put into your music now?
Well, I have been doing a little bit more singing, and I just released a live in Japan CD where I does kind of half and half vocals and guitar work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How was that received in Japan?
Very, very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do well. I mean, do you go over there often, or have you gone often?
I've been over there a couple of times, and both times have been, been very, very well received, and they're really very welcoming. They're a very welcoming audience and very accommodating.
And they know their jazz too.
They do.
I understand. Yeah, I have a friend who, in fact, I interviewed him for another topic, and he's a military. He was a career military guy in the Navy and spent a fair amount of time in Japan. And I remember talking with him, and he said, "Boy, they're really serious about their jazz and their music over there."
They really are.
Yeah.
And they especially they love guitarists.
Oh yeah. Who are some of your favorite guitarists and people who influenced you? Guitar.
Well, everybody loves Wes Montgomery. You can't not talk about him.
Mm-hmm.
And Bolicete was a Brazilian guitarist.
See, I don't know him, but go ahead.
And then later on, I kind of got into Jimi Hendrix. Mm-hmm. So I like those three styles of music. Mm-hmm. And there's some newer people on the scene that I kind of like as well. Mm-hmm. You're a lot like Lionel Lueke.
Yeah.
Like him a lot. Mm-hmm. And he's been on my guitar summit, so I really was very happy to have him that one year. Mm-hmm. Mark Whitfield, he's a great young guitarist as well.
Is he from here?
Where is he from? I think he might be from Boston area.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm not really sure. I should know that, but don't hold me to that. So.
Well, talk some more about that Philadelphia Guitar Summit. How did that come about? And you were the founder of that. You are the founder of that.
I am the founder of it and curator. Uh-huh. And I started that in 2009. Mm-hmm. And so this year would have been the 11th year for it. Mm-hmm. But because of COVID, I didn't plan for it. Mm-hmm. And although I still have half of the year, and I'm considering doing some online presentations because I have some interviews and things like that that I could present. So I might still be in for this year. So I just have to figure out the streaming situation. Mm-hmm. So I'm really not familiar with it.
Yeah, I'm a bit challenged on the technology, as everyone got to see this evening, but it's, I'm still learning some of those things. But what was the impetus for you getting it started?
Well, when I was coming up, my mother was actually the inspiration for this in a kind of a backhanded way, because she never wanted me to play the guitar. And she thought that if you played the guitar, you were going to be a rock and roll player, and and she just didn't want that. So she had me start on piano when I was 8, and when my stepfather brought the guitar to me, you know, I was really excited about it. But later on, she told me she kept hiding it from me. She kept putting it in the closet. If I bring it out, she put it back in the closet, you know. And then she sent me to this like church camp one summer, and all these little girls were playing their guitars, and they had a talent show, and my friend and I, we did like a cha-cha steps and stuff. But I was like, I got a guitar at home. I should be playing my guitar, and I just went home, and I'm like, I want to play, you know, I want to play my guitar. So my aunt and my grandmother, my aunt arranged for the guitar lessons, and my grandmother got me a case and music stand and all, and that was all she wrote. So for the guitar summit, I wanted to just really show people the diversity of guitar music, and so I usually try to hire different people from different genres, although primarily, you know, I focus on jazz. But I've had all different kinds of music. I've had classical guitarists, you know, kind of like country, blues type stuff. I like to do to show like where the guitar came from as far as the African influences, like the kora, and then Delta blues type things. So now I've had people that reflect these type styles of music, and all on the same program, and it's been good for the audiences, and it's also been good for the musicians, because usually people of different genres are not usually on the same stage. And so in this way, everybody gets to talk to each other, kind of exchange ideas, and it was a learning experience on both sides, you know, behind stage, backstage, and also in the audience.
Now, well, did you guys rehearse? Do you rehearse, or is it's basically more like a kind of educational presentation, discussion type of thing, or?
Well, usually, sometimes I would have workshops, and sometimes I would have like kind of a workshop before the main performance. But the performances, you know, depending on who was performing, I usually would have maybe 4 to 5 acts, and each act would do like 20 to 30 minutes each.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and so yes, it was definitely rehearsed, and you know, whatever they presented, it was very professionally done. I mean,
yeah, I was just wondering, you know, people from different genres, were they playing, you know? Like
they weren't playing together.
Oh, I see.
They had their own units. You know, either they may have played solo, or they had their own groups.
Yeah.
And presented the music as they would do it. I had this one young guy who played 8-string guitar. Name is Tosan Basi, and he was just incredible.
Where's he from?
He came in from LA, but he's not originally from LA. Yeah.
And he a jazz guitarist?
No, he was a hard rock, really.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and you know, it's a strange thing, because I knew that some of the audience probably, you know, weren't into the hard rock at all, but I'm saying this young man is just so good and incredible that you cannot deny his musicianship and just his awesomeness, you know what I mean? So I had no doubt that the audience would appreciate, you know, his performance, and they did, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing to me that, you know, sometimes some of the most incredible and some of the most incredible works and pieces that people play just, you know, they're not well publicized, they're not real popular oftentimes. I know one of my favorite guitar solos, even though it's not that long, is by, I don't know, I should know his name, but he played for Kool and the Gang back in the day, and he just does this solo on a song called "Life Is What You Make It." And I've never heard anybody talk about it before, but it's just, and it's not that long. It might be, if it's a minute, it's probably not even that, probably 30 seconds. But it is just this incredible riff he gets into. In the middle of that song, and like I said, I've never heard anybody talk about it. And similarly, I haven't seen. Well, I never got a chance to see Sun Ra, but his orchestra I have seen from, you know, after he passed more recently. And I got a chance to see one time on South Street, they were playing, and this guy who was playing the guitar, I can't describe what he was doing. It's just, I just had never seen anybody doing this before. He was doing, and I can't describe it. You just had to see it and hear it, to kind of believe it. But you know, you just see things musically. I mean, I've said a number of times to friends that on any given Sunday, you can go into a church, particularly a black church, and hear some phenomenal vocalist or singing or arrangements or organist or that kind of thing. So you never know where you're going to hear some great stuff. And, you know, so I feel what you were talking about with that particular person. You know, Sumi Tanuka was on, I interviewed her recently, and she said you guys might have talked about maybe doing something together. I think.
Yes, we have. We've been threatening to do it for a minute, but you know, we both get kind of busy, and then we. But in fact, I was thinking about her today, that you know I should give her a call and we should start, because we talked about doing some composing together and then a performance.
Actually, that's a note that I had, Dan, I'm glad you brought that up, in terms of writing and composing. You know, talk about that a little bit in terms of how you approach that. I mean, all your stuff is pretty much original. You don't cover many other people's stuff, do you?
I don't. Most of my CDs are generally all originals, and I might have one cover tune, maybe.
Born Again.
Yeah. And then I did, with the vocals, I did some jazz standards as well. And then I think I covered a Stevie Wonder piece.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which one?
Hang on, what is the name of that song? I had to sing it in my head. I can't remember right now, but I'll probably think of it before we finish. But it's on my CD called "Let the Rhythm Take You."
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard that one.
But it's an instrumental cover though. But so what was the original question you asked me? The composing.
Composing, right.
Right. So sometimes, you know, I write from experiences, you know, something that might have touched me emotionally, that I feel like I have to express myself. You know, and sometimes I write from, like, if somebody needs music for a specific program or a specific idea, you know, I'll write from that perspective.
Mhm.
So, and sometimes I'll collaborate with different with poets. You know, I've collaborated with Chapita Mason and also Beth Feldman Brandt. Um, and so I find that very, very challenging, and I enjoy doing that as well. Um, but I just write. I really like writing a good song, and once I've awakened from my dream, and I had a whole song, this song called "The Real Thing," which is a reggae. Um, and so right now I'm in the process of writing about 4 different pieces,
Mhm.
and I just finished one for for the art museum. We were actually supposed to do a concert, but then we never did it because of COVID. So uh, yeah, so those are, you know, so but I'm working on 4 pieces right now, and I'm trying to decide whether I want to just put them all together and make it one big piece or just keep them separate. And so I'm still going through the thought process.
Mhm.
But it's all like a puzzle to me, you know what I mean? It's um, just kind
Is
of putting the
lyric,
puzzle together. Huh?
are most of your songs though they're all instrumental?
No, no,
No. Okay.
because I'm a lyricist also. So no, they're not all instrumental. See, that's where that folk thing comes in. Yeah, no, I do both.
Okay.
Yeah, I
You
do
find
both.
it harder to do the lyrics than the music, or
No, not really.
no? Okay.
No, not at all. Most of the time, if I'm going to do lyric, it'll it'll all come at this together. Like,
Hmm.
you know, I'll start singing the lyric, and it'll just all kind of work together. Um, I just wrote one for George Floyd. Um,
Oh, sure. Mhm.
yeah, and that one took me the longest. Actually, I already had kind of the foundation of the music,
Mhm.
and for almost a year, maybe 2 years, I've been trying to figure out lyrics for it.
Mhm.
And so um, I was waiting for George Floyd,
Mhm.
but I because that was the inspiration
Mhm.
to finish the song and to write the lyric. The lyric just came after that,
Uh,
unfortunately.
I'm sorry. We just have a couple of minutes left. What would you say in terms of jazz and, kind of like its future? I know a few years ago I read this article this idiot wrote that said something about jazz was dead. Um, Clearly it isn't, and I would argue it's everywhere. I mean, I think I don't know if jazz will ever be what it was in the 30s and 40s in terms of commercial popularity, but in terms of impact and influence, I really believe it's everywhere. And all you just have to do is open your eyes and your ears, and you see it and you hear it. But what's your sense of what, kind of looking into the future and how jazz is going to be a part of it?
Well, I've been working for a few years now with the Clef Club, Philadelphia Clef Club
Mm-hmm.
uh, of jazz, and so the past couple of weeks since we've been online,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been a time when we've been able to kind of look into to really see the vision for the future through the young people. And since we've been doing Zoom, we've had more intimate uh, interactions with the children.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell you that these young people are so devoted to
Mm-hmm.
jazz music, and they are incredible
Mm-hmm.
musicians. And they're only like 7th grade, 8th grade, high school. I mean, incredible. I'm
Mm.
telling you, they had me in tears. And I was like, I'm not gonna cry. And I was like, darn it, they got me again. Because it's just beautiful to see the talent that they have. And I'm telling you, the world is just gonna hear some really beautiful music in the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. On that note, I think we're going to bring Getting the Record Straight to an end.
Okay.
Monnette, I really want to thank you. I think you're a Philadelphia treasure, and just keep doing what you're doing. Keep making that great music. Keep singing too. And,
All right. Thank you.
all right. Thanks so much.
It will.
All right.
All right.